Roman Rudin, strange occurrence in the region of the heart. Today we're reading the story, The Wind in Rome. The wind is born from nothing and vanishes to nowhere, leaving nothing but stories behind. Tacitus. The wind in Rome vanishes at the same time as Celestian returns from his final naval campaign. Final because the wind does not rise on the day after his return, nor any day of the month which follows. While soon Celestian himself, the best of my commanders, prefers to vanish too, following the wind's example, complaining to me before he does so that the absence of waves on the sea is driving him out of his mind. It is around this same time that rumours begin to spread through my city. Somewhere on the outskirts, an old woman, crackpot you would think to look at her, is roaming the streets foretelling misfortune for everyone she encounters, and each of her predictions comes unerringly true, which I personally rather doubt. I ascribe this tale to that same absence of even the feeblest puff of wind in the city. Since even if there is this old woman, then no one can vouch for her prophecies. After all, scarcely any time at all has passed since the city air reached this unbearable temperature. However, refuting the rumour is impossible for the same reason. Any time now, we can expect revolt, because not only are the flags which hang above my palace now drooping, and the fans which wave within now useless, but elsewhere the tunics and the tresses of our beautiful Roman women no longer flutter, while each day now birds fall from the heavens, their wings having nothing on which to gain purchase. This is not the happiest of portents, even without the rumours of mad old women. The smooth, nay flawless mirror of the water in the bay, where the entire Roman sailing fleet is held captive, merges seamlessly with the fathomless sky, and twice each day it seems as though the boats take the place of the birds and hover in the air. At dawn, shortly before the sun rises, and at dusk, just after the scorching red disk of the sun disappears from view. Without exception, every poet in Rome gathers on the shore of the bay for the morning minutes of this delightful enchantment. And those among them who manage to catch their restless muse by the toe of her sandal in the morning repair to the shore in the evening too, to declaim to the appreciative exclamations of the city residents anything which, or so the poets believe, might divert the Romans who are dejected from the lack of wind. I'm also in the habit of spending my evenings on the shore, hearkening to the poets and drinking in the sight of the triremes hanging in the air. And one day I hear one of these poets loudly recounting the tale of a nameless grandee who spends his days and nights surrounded by courtesans, He scorns their embrace completely, bidding them instead to blow constantly in his direction, and so create an approximation of breeze. He is no miser. He pays well for the difficult labor of their lungs and cheeks. I instantly guess who in Rome might be ready to cast his entire fortune to the wind, and I send men to discover which part of the city is home to this ill-starred versifier, who does not even begin to suspect what the man whose anonymity he has so recklessly destroyed might do to him in return. My spies return and report that Celestian has based himself in one of the brothels in the eastern outskirts, and that the women within are cooling only him, no others, with their exhalations, while that ambitious rhymer, who quite unaware he was doing so, revealed the location of my general, is merely one of those who got shrift following the latter's appearance in the establishment. I will just flick on to the rest of the other pages to give you an idea of the length. So that's 2 pages, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I think that's it. No, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, that must be it. 15? Yeah, that's the next story there. Let's go back to our story. Today's story, I should say. Let's look at some of the words that we use here. Um, just at the beginning, we have what appears to be a quote. This appears to be a quote from Tacitus, but I sort of doubt that really is Tacitus. He was much more. This tends to be almost slightly spiritual, what's being said here. Tacitus was a bit more fact-based, down to earth. So I think this quote is made up. The name Celestian, I think you'd also say that was light blue in color. There's a mineral which has a similar name as Celestian, and that is a light blue color. And so when it says commanders, there's the feeling here this is a military or a naval title. When we say crackpot, as here, it's another way of saying mad. It's another way of calling somebody mad. If something is unerringly true in this case, it means it's always true. There's never a case when it's not true. So if you unerringly do something, you're always correct. So in other words, to err, ERR, is to make a mistake, and the opposite is therefore puts the UN in front of it. We often say puff when we talk about wind, perhaps smoke. We might call a smoke a puff of smoke or a puff of wind. And of course, revolt here is to do with perhaps affected there being something like a riot. Perhaps the people of the city will be unhappy, and that's their way of showing it. And a riot normally would involve breaking things, people dying possibly. If something is drooping, then it is hanging down, hanging down. In this case, it's the flags are hanging down because there's no wind. It says elsewhere the tunics and tresses. So tunics is a part of traditional Roman clothing. It's what Romans, both men and women, would wear in their everyday, in an informal sort of a situation. Formally, they would probably wear togas, and for the men anyway. And tresses would be the lady's hair. Lady's hair is probably made into tresses. So this is a hairstyle, you could suggest, a part of the hairstyle of ladies. Birds, birds were often seen as predicting something spiritual, showing something spiritual in Roman times. And it says here about the winds get to gain purchase with their wings. Um, purchase here doesn't mean buying anything, but purchase can also be mean to take hold of something or get a grip. If you get a grip on something, you could say, I've got a purchase, I have purchase. So that's the meaning of purchase. Um, and we're just talking about the birds and the spiritual meaning of birds. So is the word portent relates to that. So a portent is basically a sign, a spiritual sign of predicting the future normally. Most of the time, I would suggest that is used in a negative sense. Something bad is being predicted, but I don't think it has to be bad. It doesn't have to be a bad thing being predicted. As the word nay there, and that's a slightly more poetic version of no, effectively. It's actually I think it's the old English version of no, isn't it, as well? A flawless mirror. Let's turn over the page. So here we have the word fathomless. So this is saying cannot be understood or cannot be measured. In this sense here, it's being cannot be measured. So the sky cannot be measured. That's the meaning I would take from that there. And they're talking about twice each day. And then it says at dawn and at dusk. So here it's basically referring to the tides. So the water, because of the sun and the moon, the water in a bay would go up and down twice in a day, up twice and then down twice in a cycle. So this is what they're referring to here. So the boats are going up and down, and because the sky is blue and the water is blue, and as there's no wind to put waves on the water, the boats, I would suggest, appear to be just floating in the sky. In other words, you can't really quite tell where the sky is because the sky and the water are the same color, which comes back to Celestian because his name, at least to my mind, his name has the idea of this same light blue color. So if something's enchanting, it's sort of magical. It's something that's magical, very pleasant, quite beautiful, probably. But there's also in the word enchanting the idea of it being perhaps slightly magical, even a spell. So that could be so it can be something very beautiful, or perhaps a spell being cast upon you. So a muse is someone or something which gives inspiration to an artist. And I suppose here it is perhaps indicating that a person, a person's toe in her sandal may be giving inspiration. Or is it the fact that the boats appear to be hovering in the sky? Is that their inspiration? I think it's both, probably. So exclamations. Of course, we have an exclamation mark. So is this sort of saying loudly, saying something loudly? And to declaim, if you declaim something, again, you're saying something loudly. It's more that you're probably making something of a performance for a group of people, perhaps even an audience, I guess. And I suppose everybody is out on the shore, so it's the poets, I think, are making this, are declaiming something, aren't they? They're poems, I guess, as they're trying to divert the Romans from the lack of wind. So when it says divert here, it just means distract them. So take their minds off the problem, the fact that there is no wind. And it's so hot, of course. So if you're dejected, you're depressed, say Minnie is depressed. Uh, uh, so this is triremes are boats. This is an ancient boat that they had back in those days, over 2,000 years ago. A grandee is an important person, as a wealthy person. Courtesans are expensive sex workers, high class sex workers. But of course, Celestian um, scorns their embrace, which I can't see the word Scot, there it is there. So Celestian scorns their embrace. If you scorn, in this case here, scorns mean he doesn't want their embrace. He's avoiding it. He's saying, no, not that. I want your breath for wind. Approximation, of course, means something similar to, something roughly similar to, or fairly similar to. So a miser is somebody who doesn't spend money willingly, and they probably don't spend a lot of money as a result. They avoid spending money. So when it says here ill-starred, I think there it's saying ill-fated, bad luck. If you have ill fate or ill-starred, you could say you have bad luck. But it's a sort of poetic way of saying it. It's a more beautiful way of saying it, of saying someone with referring to someone with bad luck. So here it says versifier, and so versifier and rhymer, I think, are basically referring to the same person. So, and versifier and rhymer are basically saying the same thing. So it's referring to the poet back here who, here we go, the poets. So there's one particular poet who revealed where Celestian was, and it's that person the word versifier and Roma is referring to, the person who revealed it, revealed his location, I should say. So, so that's the brothel is where the sex workers work. And an establishment is possibly a building or a place. So I'm not sure if that is referring to the where the sex workers are, or perhaps the palace. I haven't quite worked that out. let's go back to our starting image. Here we go.